Hi, welcome to the Corner of Knit and Tea, episode 489. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy Kira on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, which is where this episode and every episode show notes will be. And I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea, where I sell my handspun yarns and knitting patterns. Hi, how are you? It has been 2 weeks since I last recorded, and it is Monday, September 9th. I hope that you are doing well. I didn't record last week for two reasons. First of all, it was a holiday in the US, but probably the bigger reason is that I had almost nothing that I could easily show you. And so I just decided that I was going to take the day off and do some crafting and, yeah, so I apologize for the unexpected break. I have been, well, a lot has happened. I have been still a little challenged in my crafting. I took 2 full weeks off of knitting and doing much at all. And then I started to slowly fold knitting back in last week after Labor Day, after I saw the physical therapist again. And so I am currently knitting a few rows a day, nothing exciting. And I am working on trying to get through some chickens that I committed to doing before I stopped knitting. And those are going pretty slowly at just a few rows a day. And so I haven't been doing much else in terms of knitting. So I have nothing to share right now, which, to be fair, is part of the reason that I really haven't done a lot of recording. So for those of you who've been watching now and you hear me, you're probably tired of hearing me say it. I am dealing with tendonitis in my arm, which has made knitting and spinning quite difficult this year. And I've more or less been dealing with pain since the beginning of the year. I went to the physical therapist in March. We did some work. Things were going well. And then I re-injured it in July during Tour de Fleece. And so I have been kind of struggling since then. And I have started trying a lot of new crafts this year. So I have added embroidery and quilting to my crafts that I'm sharing with you. And while I am enjoying those and I am finding some joy in those, I am finding that it does not hit the same spot that knitting hit for me. Knitting has been a huge part of my life for the last 25 years and like hours and hours a day. And I am really coming to terms with the fact that I'm pretty depressed that I'm not able to participate in my favorite craft. Actually, now I'm going to get teary. Which was not really what I expected. And I've really sort of in the last few weeks been grappling with the fact that as many new crafts as I try, they don't fill the same spot. So last Monday, I just really didn't have that much to show you, and so I decided to take the day off. So I am still working on embroidery and quilting, and actually I do have something to show you today. I couldn't show you my quilting last week because it was still all in pieces, and so there was no good way for me to bring it and share it with you. But this week I am almost done piecing my top, so that is a, sorry. Ooh! So I have time to, or the ability to bring and show you. So I don't have a lot to share today, but I will share a few small things with you. And then my hope is that over the next few weeks, I can ease back into knitting a little bit more. I have a tee that is still on the needles that I guess I'm probably not going to finish before warm weather is over. I have some socks I would love to finish. My mom gave me a sweater that I made for her back so that I could adjust the sleeves for her, which shouldn't be a difficult adjustment, but it is another thing to do. And my hope is maybe I will be in shape when November comes around in about, well, a little less than 2 months, to maybe cast on for another sweater for myself. November is Nanny Swaymo National Knit a Sweater Month. I am not going to push myself to knit a sweater in a month, but my hope is that maybe I can be working on a project that really brings me joy and at my hobby that really brings me joy by the time the holidays and Christmas season roll around. So I did sort of as a fall cleaning go, and I can't remember if I mentioned this the last time because it's September now. I don't think so. I actually went to where I had all my charity knits put aside and pulled out a couple boxes so that I could start dividing them where they're supposed to go. This year, unfortunately, I only have about half a box of things to send, so I'm going to send them all to Knit the Rainbow, and I'm sending some socks and some mittens and some hats and a couple scarves and cowls and things, and so my plan is to put that box together and have that ready as soon as they announce they're accepting donations again. They usually do that early in the fall, and they share the knitted goods with LGBTQIA individuals who find themselves facing houselessness as a result of their identity. And so I am trying to sort of keep things moving and go back to what I love. So today I'm going to talk about two crafts that I am enjoying quite a bit that don't quite scratch the itch in my heart of hearts, but I am enjoying them. I have more to show you on a sort of longer, bigger project that I want to work on. My husband actually was the one who gave me the idea. I found this really cool year-long, they're kind of monochrome folk art embroideries, and I thought they were really, really interesting and kind of fun. And there's one for each month of the year, and each month is kind of a different color palette. And I was looking at them and thinking, oh, okay, I could do them, and maybe I could put them all up on one wall. And my husband suggested that maybe I could turn them into a quilt. So I spent a lot of time thinking about what I wanted to do, and then I just jumped in anyway. And so I have been working on January, because that's just where I decided to start. The patterns are available from B.Co. Productions on Etsy. It's B-E and then C-O and Productions. And I will put a link in the show notes, which are at the corner of knitandtea.com, so you can see where I got the patterns. I purchased the bundle that had January through August in it. I know eventually there will be a full year-long bundle. I was too anxious to start already, so I purchased the bundle, which is a little bit of savings, and then I will buy the other patterns individually. I think she said they're available by the 15th of the month, so September should be in there by now, and we're coming up, it's September 9th, so by this weekend, my guess is that October might be in there. But so that is what I have been working on, and typically, as it turns out, these are monochrome designs, and so they're like shades of forest green or shades of red or shades of orange, and as it turns out, when I went to look in the pattern, because I didn't know until I had purchased the pattern, it looks like each design is done in two colors of embroidery floss, kind of a lighter and a darker, and that's how they create the monochrome. And I decided that not only would I be substituting colors with what I have, but I have a box of floss, of a variety of colors of flosses, and so I decided that I would just pull out all the ones that I thought would work for kind of the color scheme of the month, and I would use those so that I can use up some of what I have. And these designs are intricate enough, and there's enough stuff in them, like they're really kind of packed designs. They're not entirely full coverage, but they are pretty full designs, and so my guess is that I will probably have to buy some colors to supplement what I'm doing, because I won't have enough to do each month, and some months I may have to buy more colors than others, because it just depends what I have in the stash. But for the first month, January was kind of an evergreen color, kind of a woodsy and still in the depths of winter, and I had a ton of those colors in stash, and so I have started on that, and I think I showed you the design last time, but this is what I have done so far. So I've done some of the trees and the holly leaves, I've done a couple of the snowflakes, and then I started getting into some of the other things, and that's because I pulled out threads, and I kind of just worked until I was done with the threads, and so I have to decide what's next. The trees took quite a bit of thread, which is why, like I said, there are a lot of these designs that have lots and lots of things in them, and so there's just lots and lots to show. So I have kind of a dark green here, I have a lighter green here, I have a medium green here, and this one is kind of almost a tealy blue that I think is almost like a blue spruce, and so those are the colors that I'm using in this. And then this one is more of a, it's hard to see, but it's like almost slightly more of an olivey green. I don't know, I just have like tons of different greens in my stash. Well, that looks a little bit better, so you can see what's going on. So I'm just working through a couple threads here and there. I'm working on this when I have time. I have no deadline on this. This is going to be a longer project, obviously, because all of the designs are full coverage, and I have 12 of them to do. So I'm working on this, and this is just living in a project bag with all the different colors of floss, and it's a pretty portable project. I am going to be out of town next week on business, and actually, I should announce that there won't be a podcast next week. The company that I work for, Missouri Star, is celebrating its 16th birthday, and that means there is a party in the town of Hamilton where all the those stores are. And so I am going to be working up there next week. And so I will be taking my crafts with me to work on in the evenings and in between times. But I'm actually going to be quite busy up there, and I won't really have capability to film and post. So I'll skip another week, and then we'll go back to somewhat normal on Mondays. And hopefully I will have more content to show you soon. So that is where I'm at on here. It doesn't look like a lot, but it is several evenings work. Those trees take forever. And then all the other stuff is I do a few threads, and then because I've been knitting a little bit, my wrist has been a little bit sore too. So I've been trying to sort of, not overdo it, because while I would very much like to craft, I also would like to avoid having to keep going back to physical therapy. So, and I just realized that I completely forgot to do the tea. I am drinking in my Hello Kitty mug again, and I wanted to get some pumpkin tea today, but I realized I don't have any pumpkin tea in my stash. I must have finished it. And rather than order more, I'm going to work through what I have because. And so today I am drinking masala chai, which was from my local tea shop called the Tea Market. It is up in Crestwood Hills, up in Kansas City on the Missouri side. It is up right near where my old office was, and I haven't worked in that office for 6 or 7 years now, but it is up at that direction. And actually I was just up there this weekend because we did a 10K right around there, but I did not stop and get more tea. It was a few blocks off from where we were running the 10K. Anyway, so it is kind of a fall seasonal tea. Yesterday morning when we got there to start our run, it was a 10K, and we started at 7:30 in the morning, and it was 47 degrees, which was perfectly chilly. It has been in the high 70s, low 80s during the day, so it's not fall yet, but the mornings have a chill in them, and that's really lovely. So I am drinking my kind of fall masala chai tea and enjoying it in my Hello Kitty mug. So I covered the embroidery and I covered the tea. So the last thing left to cover is my quilt. I know this is not going to be a huge, long episode. So several weeks ago, I showed you some Cape Facet fabric. He is both a knitting designer and a fabric designer. He actually started as a painter. I think I've talked about him before. And he is a knitting designer who most often works with Rowan. And then he also designs fabric. Basically, he paints and selects a lot of his colors through kind of a painterly eye. And his thing is lots of bright fabrics and patterns and tons of different colors. And in knitting, he does a lot of intarsia, which is marrying a lot of different patterns together with tons of different colors. And the quilt that I am making is called Mini Petals. It is a free pattern from Robert Kaufman, and there is a link in the show notes to where you can download a copy of that pattern. I am more or less making it like the pattern. The areas where I have differed are, I believe the pattern calls for a layer cake, which is squares that are 10 inch by 10 inch, which means when you cut them down to 5-inch squares, which is what you need for the pattern, you have 4 of each. And what I did is, so most layer cakes have 40 10-inch squares in them, and then oftentimes there are about 20 different patterns in a fabric collection, and so oftentimes you get two squares of the same print. So in the original quilt, in the pattern for Robert Kaufman, they used a layer cake, and so they basically got 8 squares, 8 5-inch squares for each fabric. What I ended up doing was I bought 2 charm packs, which are 5-inch squares. So I had 4 squares of each colorway, and so I do not have 8, so the pattern is not exactly the same, but it's more or less a gradient out from the center, and so that is what I have done with my fabric. And then the other thing to note is that the quilt that is in the pattern is slightly different dimensions than mine. I went ahead and squared mine off because I want it to be a square wall hanging. The actual quilt is kind of rectangular, so it's a little shorter across in width, but a little bit longer in length, whereas mine is going to be perfectly square. So those are the only 2 changes that I made. And last week I had done what's called snowballing, which is adding fabric to the corners of my 5-inch squares. But it was just a whole bunch of squares with black fabric on the corners, which is not very interesting, which is why I didn't bring it. Also because I would have to show them to you one at a time. What is much more interesting is to see how they lay out together and how the pattern goes. And I only have 3 or 4 more seams until I am done with the top, which I'm very excited for. But what I can show you today will give you a little bit of an idea of what the quilt will look like. So I have the top half of the quilt completely seamed together, and then I have the bottom half chain pieced together. So the rows are sewn together, but then, or the columns are sewn together, but like I haven't completely finished the rows yet. So this is what I am looking at. Whoops, I have it here. Let's go. Okay, so as you can see, what I have done is I have started at the center with kind of the lightest green, and then I work outwards towards teal and darker greens. And then the bottom is a mirror opposite of that, but in the bottom you can see that the rows are not sewn together yet. So they are just further apart, and I did what's called chain piecing, which creates this grid so that they kind of all hang together even though they're not seamed yet. So this is kind of the top. So last week I had all of these squares with the black corners on them, but I didn't have them like put together in a pattern, and part of it is to kind of see the pattern, and the quilt itself will make a, you can see with the next row, the quilt itself will kind of make an X, and then it kind of radiates outward. So that is what I have done so far, and what I will continue to do this week. My plan is to finish all of these seams in the next couple nights. My guess is I will then have to put this on hold for a week or two, because like I said, I will be out of town on business next week, and I will not be bringing my sewing machine with me. So what will happen is when I get back after that, then I will start to quilt this. So this is, like I said, kind of where I'm at. I haven't decided if I'm going to put any sashing or bordering on it. I have toyed with doing kind of a thin black border at the top of this, maybe like 1 inch, or maybe the full 2 inches. I don't know. I can't decide. I'm going to finish the top and then see what I end up with, and then we'll see where we go. And then I have a crazy loud pattern in purple for the back, which I will show you another time. But this is, again, this is, the goal is to make it, let's see, so I have 8 5-inch squares, and you subtract, so it's 8 times 4.5, so it's a 36 by 36 before I put any borders on it or do anything else. And it's probably a little bit less than that because, so when I count, I'm saying 8 times 5 squares, and they're all 5-inch squares, but then I'm supposed to be leaving a 1/4 inch for the seams on each side, so it's really 8 times 4.5. That's how I get to my 36. But if I'm being perfectly honest with you, I do not have perfect 1/4 inch seams, so it's probably more like 35-ish by the time I get done with it. And so then I can either put borders on it and make it like a 40 by 40 or a 38 or a 39 inches square. And then I haven't decided on the binding yet either. It will either be black binding to match this. I have enough of this black to either to do borders and binding, either one or both. And then I have the purple for the back, and I haven't decided if I want to do the purple as the binding or not. So that is kind of upcoming decisions. I also have not decided how I would like to quilt this yet, whether I'm going to do free motion or whether I'm going to do some lines or exactly what it is that I'm going to do. But I'm really pleased with it. I really like how it's coming out. In the pattern, they used indigo blues, and then they used a white against it, and I just wanted to do black because I thought it would offset these colors and patterns even more, and I'm really, really pleased with it, and I think this will be a fun quilt to hang on my wall. And just for those of you who are new here, I have recently started quilting. I joined Missouri Star Quilt Company as an employee about a 1.5 years ago, almost 2 years ago now. Well, okay, as an employee about 1.5 years ago, I started working for them about 2 years ago. I was a contractor for a while, and I have been sort of learning how to quilt, and sewing a straight line is a lot harder than you would think. And one of the ways that I have been enjoying learning to quilt is I have been making somewhat small quilts, usually 3 feet, roughly 36 inches, between 36 inches and 40 inches square. And I purchased a quilt hanger for a wall, which is right next to my desk, so I can see it right here. And I am making some square wall quilts so that I can practice lots of different techniques and use some fun fabrics, and also so I can have a little something to change out seasonally in my office, because I'm in my office and craft room. So that is where I'm at with this one currently, and I will be working on it a little bit more this week, and then, like I said, it will rest for a week or two, which is not really a thing in quilt talk. Like, it's not like spinning, it doesn't have to rest. But it will rest for a week or two because next week I will be in Hamilton on business. So that is kind of where I am at right now. As I said, I am enjoying the crafting process, although I'm really just wish I could knit. So I am hoping that there will be more knitting related content going forward. I'm dabbling into a little bit of everything at this point. I've even started doodling a little bit. I got a book this week, and because On Instagram, I've been following more and more new accounts for quilting and other things, and it has started to lead me down the algorithms for painting and drawing and doodling, and so I have been adding all of these new things and kind of playing around with them. But if I'm really 100% serious and honest, knitting has my heart, and so I hope that I will be doing more of that soon. And I know that many of you have started watching me to follow along for the knitting, and I just want to reassure you it is, I hope, not going away. I would really, really, really prefer to be doing lots more of that. And so I hope that I will move forward with some of these crafts, but also that knitting will really start to take a center stage again. And I miss spinning as well, but if I had to pick one, I would say knitting is going to win every single time. So, not to end on a down note, I hope that you are having a lovely week. Fall has started, the kids have gone back to school. I am feeling the ongoing changing of the seasons and the rush. I know we only have like 100 and some odd days until Christmas, so there's lots of crafting, although not for me this year. But lots of crafting going on, and we're getting ready to head into the cozy season, and I could not be more excited about that, and my hope is only that I will be able to curl up with a good blanket and do lots of knitting and stitching and all kinds of things this fall. So I will miss you next week, which will be Monday, September 16th, and I will plan to convene with you again. Let's see, 16 and 7 is 23, so I will see you again on Monday, September 23rd. I hope you have a wonderful couple weeks until then, and I will say, as I always do, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy quilting and embroidery and any craft that you choose to do, and most of all, happy sipping. And I'll see you next time. Bye.